Hey everybody,
What's up?
we're back for some more movie time, and this time we're here to talk about the DC cinematic universe.
Captain Marvel.
We're here to talk about Captain Marvel again. This time we're talking about Shazam. When we first did our reactions to the trailer that came out,
We did one to Shazam?
We did one to Shazam, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we did. It's been so long.
It's been a while. I expressed incredulity and kind of said that it would be really easy for them to go this really, really dark route where this kid has to face off against this horrible abomination, has to grow up immediately in this story.
Not what happened.
It is not what happens at all, and
I had fun.
I loved it.
I
loved this movie. I thought it was a ton of fun.
I was surprised with the casting in this, and I only say this because a lot of the actors in there are from other DC things that maybe weren't so great.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and do a quick non-spoilery thing about it. What were some of the things that you really, really liked, and versus what are some of the things that you really, really disliked?
I really, really liked Zachary Levi playing a kid. And
yeah, he was pretty much the superhero equivalent of Big.
I think
They give a nice little homage to that actually when he's fighting Savannah in the toy store. It's really quick, and it's just a one and done thing.
I think it was fun though because it's like not a lot of actors could easily screw that up, but it's like no, this is a 14-year-old who got superpowers, and the whole like over exaggerated chest, like everyone was talking down the suit. I'm like, that's a 14-year-old's mental image of a superhero.
Yeah, no,
they always draw them super ridiculous. It's like Superman. Remember?
Yeah,
Superman comics.
Well, that comes into play a little bit at the very end, but we'll get into that for spoilers. If you haven't seen it, go see the movie. It's a ton of fun. I kind of remembered saying that it looked like they were going the Brandon Routh pillow muscle type thing. But I also kind of remember saying that if there's going to be a superhero like that, that's okay for Captain Marvel because he's kind of that over-exaggerated type of superhero. So that's not really a bad...
let's face it, nothing can look not as fantastic as Brandon Routh's pillow suit.
I argue that point with the Man of Steel Superman costume, which I still say looks like absolute shit.
Okay, I don't disagree with you there. Superman's suit in general has never been great.
I like the classic Superman suit.
I like the one on Supergirl. I think that's...
I don't know about that.
I think that's my favorite Superman suit.
Anyway. What are some things you disliked? Because I have like one or two things. Nothing that's like a breaker for the movie, but there are a couple of things that I noticed.
So this is just me as a Shazam knowledge, and I didn't know which version they were going with. Because there's two...
I'm happy with the way they went.
Well, there's two different versions of when Billy gets his powers. This one kind of meets in the middle because in the New 52, he can't always turn into Shazam. He has to have pure intentions because he argued with Shazam that no one's pure of heart.
You told me about that, and that was one of the biggest things I worried about. I was like, oh god, because he starts out with that a little bit, and I was like, oh shit, they're gonna go this route, and it's gonna suck.
But they didn't. Because
I thought they were very, very smart about it with how they say he said, I don't think I'm pure of heart.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the best things you could have a superhero say, which is, I'm not the guy you're looking for. Which is because the superhero never would be the one that's like, yes, I am the hero that will save the day.
Yeah, he never said that at all. He's like, I'm not a hero. Like, in the comics, it's like Shazam tests him,
Yes.
And then he's like, "Oh no, you're bad." And he was like, "There's no pure good people left in the world." And then he's like, he tests him again and sees all the good. So he's like, he limits the power. He's like, you can transform, but only when you have good intentions.
Yeah.
And that would kind of stop like what kind of happened in this movie later on.
Mm.
So but it felt a lot like they were trying to go with that version, but it just one of those. I didn't know which continuity they were trying to run with.
I think they met in the middle quite well because it focuses more on Billy's not quite inexperience, but his very young ideals towards it all.
There's also an homage I think they missed a chance on.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, where does this take place? Because if it's way late in the story, don't worry about that.
Well, it's where they never really settled on a name for him.
Well, it's a little hard to do that because you can't just have him say, "Yes, my name is Shazam," because then he just turns back into his regular.
They could have done an homage, though. There was a couple of issues where instead of calling him Captain Marvel, which they obviously couldn't do for trademark reasons,
yeah,
there's little sections like in Flashpoint and a couple side stories where he's called Captain Thunderstrike instead, or Captain Thunder something. I think it's Captain Thunder.
All of those sound stupid.
They could have used that as like an homage to, because that's like those are decently hefty Shazam stories.
They are, but I would argue there's enough deep cuts for people that really know they're Captain Marvel.
They kept calling him like retarded, like the Red Tornado.
Well, again, these are kids calling each other these things. Something. Again, everything that I have as a dislike is not by any stretch a deal breaker for this movie. It's like the only superhero movie in the last 5 years I would say I want to go see again.
I would argue Into the Spider-Verse.
I didn't see Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm very sorry I didn't, because I've heard that movie is really freaking good.
I have it on Blu-ray and DVD. I will loan you a copy.
Please do.
Everyone.
I would argue Djimon Housen, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
Djimon Hounsou.
Djimon Hounsou, who played the Wizard Shazam. He looked like he had a fake beard on the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry to say that, because I thought he was a really good wizard at the Rock of Eternity.
I think it's funny he's been in both Captain Marvel movies.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. There's that. There also wasn't a whole lot to kind of show how he had either aged or reduced in power.
So
like he's still the tall, surly man that he is.
I think we're gonna get that probably in Black Adam or Shazam 2.
Okay. All right, I'll work with that then.
Because Black Adam is getting his own movie.
Okay. Are we? If we're still fast tracking that idea, we'll work with that.
No, it's The Rock is still set to play Black Adam.
We'll get into that after a bit. About the only other thing that I would say I really disliked was when the kid who has to play Billy had to be emotional with the other kids. We can get into this a little more when we get into spoilers, but there comes a scene where it should be a rather emotional moment for the character, and he's just like, eh. And it really kind of feels like it's just like feel like he should have a little more of an emotional impact in this.
I think I know what you're talking about.
He also kind of comes across a little too harsh when he's not Captain Marvel.
Well,
like when he's Captain Marvel, he's all fun and games.
That's why I wondered which version of Billy they were trying to go with, because like there is like the upbeat, but it feels like they were kind of trying to go with New 52, where New 52 Billy Batson is kind of a dick. And
Yeah.
like
Well,
pre-New 52 Billy Batson is fucking the most cheerful god fucking kid you could ever meet on the street.
To quote Linkara on a comic review, Billy Batson is a bigger Boy Scout than Superman.
Yes.
And that was a big problem that a lot of people had with the new Superman movies, just how very willing and ready Superman is to kill people. Which, yes, I understand Superman killed people in previous movies.
Well,
it kind of sucks there too, actually.
Well, him being such a Boy Scout is what originally. So when Shazam was when he was Captain Marvel back then, when Shazam was created, he actually he was not created by DC. He was created by another company.
Yes,
a rival bought. DC sued them because they said he was way too similar to Superman.
Yes.
And they won, and then just funny enough, years later, they ended up with the rights to him.
Yes, which is even funnier because they let the name Captain Marvel lapse, which is why Marvel owns the rights to the comic book Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And why DC can't print Captain Marvel comics no more.
Because it has to, that's when they started calling it The Adventures of Shazam.
Yes. Yes. Outside of that, I thought this was a really, really great, it felt like an 80s movie in like the best way possible. There's some horribly fucked up shit in here for kids.
Yeah.
And I can see some people going to this and honestly being kind of a little scared about this. And I love it so much. The Seven Deadly Sins look fucking great.
That first scene threw me for a loop. I'm like, oh, this is how we're jumping into this.
Oh, with Savannah?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was really great. I honestly thought it was gonna open up in like a dream sequence.
Nope.
And no, you just see the dad get thrown out the fucking window in a car crash.
I was happy.
A really, really well done car crash too. That looked like it fucking hurt.
Yeah. That's actually one of the things that, like, that's one of my big favorite things about is all the actors in this movie were just either some of them redeemed themselves from other movies or some finally got their chance to be in a DC movie.
Yeah.
There was Mark Strong, who played Sinestro.
That is another thing that I was not super, super in with. Was it just me, or did Mark Strong, and nothing against Mark Strong in this, he's a great Dr. Savannah, but he kind of felt like he was just doing a more evil role of his guy from Kingsman.
Well, not Kingsman is. I don't think that. No.
I did not get a feeling that he was like super into the role. I mean, he did his part well, and that's because Mark Strong is a goddamn treasure and a great actor. But for whatever reason, he just never felt like he was like into the role.
Oh no.
Which that kind of a role is hard to get into.
Yeah. Well, there was him, and then the guy who played his dad was the voice of the Riddler in Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
And he was also Lex Luthor's father on Smallville.
Neat.
He was also
I'm
Siler's
not too sure
dad
about
in
the
Heroes.
Riddler. I'll have to look that up. I know he's in Gremlins.
Oh, and he was the crazy doctor in Batman and Robin, who made.
I think you're right.
He tried to kill Pamela Isley.
I'm sorry, Miss Isley, but now you're going to have to die.
Same guy. Same guy.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
He's done a lot of DC stuff, but yeah, he was the. I looked it up. I was watching a con where they were talking. He was the voice of the Riddler.
Interesting.
Yep. And then Adam Brody, who I can't talk about his character yet because that's a spoiler. It was supposed to play the Flash in a 2000s Justice League movie that got scrapped.
Yes, I remember hearing about that.
I can't.
Wasn't that the George Miller, the one that was supposed to be directed by George Miller?
I think so. Yes.
Yes.
Where Common was supposed to be Jon Stewart. There was a couple actors attached.
Yeah,
to it.
there was.
But like most of them got their redemption.
Yeah, a lot of people got their chance to be in this movie.
I can't talk about Adam Brody's character yet.
Not yet, but we can talk about the fact that how this movie overall felt and looked.
I had fun.
And again, it has enough homages and callbacks that like fans are going to notice and like followers of the director are going to notice. Apparently, there's a shot of Annabelle in there at some point. Never saw it, but fans of David Sandberg's other work are going to see it and be like, "Oh, okay." Like, there's not an absurd amount of attention focused on the doll or whatever, and apparently it's just in there. And I'm like, all right, I can get behind it. That's a good callback that I didn't see, and I'm not a fan, so I wouldn't notice, and it's good.
Neither am I. I didn't.
Right.
Overall, I had fun. I think this actually goes to my favorite DC. I have them ranked, but this is definitely my
this is 100% my favorite DC movie, I think, of all time. Like, I honest to God would place this above, like, even the Batman 89.
But above, like, Christopher Reeve Superman.
Okay. I will make an addendum on that. It is, I would say, a dead tie, because I love the classic Superman. That's got a lot of really great.
It's better like Superman 3 and 4, but
Well, yeah, but I mean, getting hit in the head is better than Superman 3 and 4. So let's not qualify that too hard.
Out of like all the newer movies, it's definitely my favorite.
Out of all the newer ones, 100%. I would even say this is. I'm gonna catch some shit for this. I like this better than I like The Dark Knight.
The movie's very.
The Dark Knight is a good movie. This is a good superhero movie.
Yes.
When I was sitting in the theater, I went in, I was the most incredulous piece of shit sitting there in my seat. I was looking at it going,
I'm glad you finally enjoyed a movie this much.
I'm so happy I enjoyed this movie. I want to enjoy movies. You don't understand.
I've seen you hurt during movies.
There's a lot of movies that there's problems with.
I
love the hell out of this movie.
I wish I could have been there for Bumblebee, because just to finally see you watching.
Bumblebee was fun. I felt better during this than I did during Bumblebee, and I felt very good during Bumblebee.
I love this. I thought it was great.
Yeah. We're gonna pause real quick. Sorry about that. It was starting to get dark, so we had to turn some lights on. I guess spoilers from here on out. If you are watching this and you want our recommendations, I 100% recommend going to see this in the theater anytime, morning, noon, or night. It is very much worth the ticket price, and I hope that that if they pay attention to the box office the way they're supposed to.
I'd like to see it on a bigger screen. I saw it at
Yes.
the mall. I want to see it on a bigger screen.
I would not. I avoid our local theaters because they're all crap.
Well, Hyde Mall has nice seating, so
it has nice seating, but its screens are terrible.
Yeah, you're not.
And I went up to a further away theater. Tinseltown. I went to a further away theater and I saw it and I was like, this was a lot of fun. So there's your recommendation. Go see it if you can and have fun, because this is a fun movie. And take your kids if you got them, because it's a really good kids movie. And
yeah, I've heard this is more kid friendly than Dumbo.
Probably. I don't know about Dumbo. I heard Dumbo was just lame.
I've heard not good things about Dumbo.
Yeah. No, I fully recommend taking kids to see this, because like there's enough things in there that kids will be able to sit there and clap and go, yay! And at the same time still be scared, but it's all like the bad guy doing stuff.
Yep. So I want to ask you, when we get into spoilers, because I'm about to drop a huge one.
Okay, well then spoilers. Now, so long everybody else, and if you're sticking around and you don't want them, fuck you.
How'd you feel about the Shazam family?
I did not expect that.
I did not see that coming, movie one.
No, honest to God, it takes a lot to surprise me, especially in a superhero movie. That shocked the hell out of me, because I didn't.
I was like,
I started
like doing a little like Cheryl was sitting next to me. I started doing like, I can't believe they're doing this. Like,
I know. I was just sitting there. I'm like, holy shit! In my wildest fantasy with this movie, the Shazam family was the last thing I would have put.
I didn't know who some of them were because some of them are new, or I just had never read. Like, I knew. So in the comics, they're Captain Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel. I did not know who the other three were, but I know they're in the newer.
They are.
Comics.
They are in the newer comics. Yes. I was super happy with all of that.
So Adam Brody was Captain Marvel Jr., but they
Yes.
couldn't figure out a name for him. I don't know what his name is now, but he's actually one of my favorite versions of Captain Marvel because before they did the New 52, Billy Shazam was killed by the Spectre, and Billy actually had to become Shazam. So Freddy became Captain Marvel. And he was actually not a bad run as Captain Marvel.
Right.
But he was one of my favorites because instead of saying Shazam in the comics, he said Captain Marvel, so he couldn't say his name. So he started going by Shazam, or he called himself like CM Jr. for his superhero run. He's one of my favorite of the Shazam family, though. And to see Adam Brody playing him was just, it's like, that kid deserves it. If any kid deserves superpowers, the cripple kid did.
Yeah, no, the kid who played Freddie Freeman in this
was so good.
He was a ton of fun. He was a little over exuberant, but that kind of played in well for the character, and it never got annoying.
No.
Which was very easy to do, which
I love the fact that he was the fanboy. Like, he was just the...
Yes.
He's like, I love everything superhero. And
yes.
Like, there's not a scene, I don't think, where he doesn't have a superhero shirt on.
Right. That being said, it would have been very, very easy for the one-dimensional characters and him to have been a one-dimensional character, kind of like the bullies, but for, like, the hero.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very glad that the bullies in this... I hate this stereotype. I'm not a big fan of it here, but it feels appropriate for the world that exists because they do get their comeuppance almost like that.
Yeah, they do.
And
then they keep that's like a reoccurring joke. They keep getting it. Like,
yeah,
he fucks their like he beats them up as a kid, and then he destroys their truck. And then they get stuck on the Ferris wheel during the final boss fight.
Yeah.
And they're about to die.
No, everything in this movie felt thematically appropriate. They don't dwell, like I said, they don't dwell too long on the shots of stuff that's like a relation to another movie or to other stuff in the comics.
I thought all the actors who played the older Shazam kids, like who played their superhero forms, they really did kind of embody like what that kid would have been felting at that point, because obviously the most mature one was Mary because she was almost an adult anyway.
Yeah.
And then you have like the little girl that just like zips around and runs everywhere.
Yeah.
They all just seemed very, very appropriate for like the kid that... The actors, I think, killed it.
Oh, no. Everybody did their roles perfectly. Everything... This is almost as perfect a superhero movie as you can get. Like, outside of the small things that I talked about with, like, Mark Strong and the kid who plays Billy Batson, and we'll get to the point where I was talking about, because there comes a point when Billy comes back to the foster home. His foster parents are really harping on him because he ran away, and now Freddy's gone. He has now been kidnapped by Dr. Savannah, we know.
Yeah.
At this point in the movie. And all the other kids have figured out that Billy is Shazam, or Captain Marvel, which I'm so glad that came about in a fairly organic way. Like, there was no point where somebody just looks at it and goes, well, wait a second. Billy's never around when Captain Marvel's here.
No, it was mostly always like, why is this kid hanging around a superhero? Like,
yes.
It was mostly just because Freddy was near him.
And when Mary starts talking about this, everybody else looks at her like she's fucking insane. And then the little girl chimes in and is like, "Yay! You all figured it out. I didn't break a promise." And they're like, "Oh shit." Like my biggest fear was when Freddy's in the mall, calling for Billy, and Savannah looks at him, and I was like, "This is gonna be so fucking dumb." He's gonna be like, "Oh, this Billy Batson is clearly the one I'm looking for because this child is screaming for someone." But then he sees him on TV talking to Captain Marvel on the news, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that works."
Yeah, everything like that worked in this movie. Also, him figuring out his powers was hilarious.
I think they went a little long on the montage set with him testing his powers. It was fun.
Him learning to fly was like, I enjoyed that.
Yes.
And the bulletproof scene.
Bulletproof scene was great.
It's like, oh wait, yeah, shoot me in the face.
Yeah.
Like,
and then they have kids drink beer.
That tastes like vomit.
Yeah.
I remember that's what I thought the first time I tried beer when I was a kid. Though, like, it doesn't taste good. Like now, beer tastes good, but like
yeah, now beer's great.
Beer did not taste that great when I was a kid. I'm like, but then again, we all tried to drink really cheap beer when we were younger too. So,
God, can you imagine if this happened in the darker DC universe? He just grabs the beer and just.
And now I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, he throws the bottle against one of the crooks' head. They fall and crack their neck.
Young Billy Vincent starts having a drinking problem. He has to turn into Shazam to go get booze. But in that one,
you don't understand, Freddy. This makes me feel happy in this dark, depressing world.
See, but in that world, his powers wouldn't work, so he couldn't turn into Shazam to go. But so he'd have to do a beer run after he fights crime, and he's jonesing the whole time, needing alcohol.
God,
we just wrote your Dark Shazam movie. You're welcome.
Yeah, there you go, David Ayer and you.
Don't you fucking make
Zack Snyder. Oh my God! I'm glad we're out of that period.
So, what do you think they are gonna do for Black Adam, though? Do you think that's the dark route they're gonna do?
Well, let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit because I don't have. Honestly, I got nothing else besides good things to say about Captain Marvel.
Go fucking see it.
Yeah, go see that movie.
Like everything, the Seven Deadly Sins look great.
Oh my God, they looked horrifying.
Yes.
Like I honest to God expected them to be like these really stupid looking models that you could not see.
No.
And they would always be shaded in really dark environments.
They were not.
They were not. They were on full display and they looked absolutely great. Like that scene in the boardroom that I was going to talk about. Thank you for reminding me. That scene was terrifying.
Yes, it was. I was like, Jesus, this got really dark.
Yeah, it was great.
But then it went back to being fun.
It was great. And I was like, yes! Kids can handle scary, dark shit like this. Let it be in movies.
The ending of that, when he finally meets him, too, and he has the orb, and he's like, what's that? Don't give me anything I've ever wanted. He's like, oh, I'm just fucking with it.
Yeah.
It's like, technically, he did pass the test.
Yeah, he did. No, I thought this movie was great.
I did too. I want to see what they're gonna do with the sequel. Are they gonna have is the whole family gonna do it all the time, or is it like they help every now and then?
I think it's probably gonna
some
be
of
they
them
help
are
every
still
now and again.
like the little girl is still very young. It's
yes, I don't think it's gonna be like an always on thing. Like I think it'll definitely be.
Well, it's like you have the kids like. The one person I could see wanting to always do it would definitely be Freddy. So he's not handicapped.
Yes. That being said, I thought this was probably the best use of an ancillary character to come into a movie that did not need to be here in the very end.
Yep.
Because it also showcases how horrible the Superman suit looks in natural light, in like bright lighting.
Yeah, those end credit scenes got me. It's like the whole time, the very end of it's like, really? We waited all that for an Aquaman disc? It's like, hey, we're gonna poke fun at Aquaman anyway, even though he just had a really good movie.
Yes, I like this movie a lot more than I liked Aquaman.
Aquaman's in my top 3.
Well, let's talk about that before we get into the sequel, because I like this. One of the big reasons I like this more than I like Aquaman. Aquaman was fun, but I love the ending to this. It's not a super world-ending. Everything has to look the biggest, grandest thing ever. It uses all the money in the world to make a battle that I don't care about. It's a super simple battle between the hero and the villain, and it takes place at a carnival.
Yeah. In
the middle of winter.
Yeah, and there was a lot of moments there that they kind of, wrapped up, like Billy kind of coming full circle with his whole mom left him at a carnival thing.
Yes.
Was that the scene where you're talking about he should have emoted more?
Yeah, like after that, where he's in the room where his foster family is confronting him about this and saying they believe in him, and he's just absolute dry faced. He's like, okay.
No, he had showed up and transformed by then. It's
before that. It's before Savannah calls him out.
Okay. Yeah, that was just kind of one of those.
And then they tell him he had just come back from getting his ass kicked by Savannah, and they tell him, it's like, your mom lives like 2 train stops away, and he's just like, up until that point he's just absolute dry face. He's like, oh yeah, well, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm leaving soon. And then you find out his mom's kind of a huge piece of shit.
Yeah, she is. Jesus Christ. That definitely sets the bar low.
Yeah.
I feel you on that, though, Billy. I feel you.
I think a lot of people can relate to, even if they haven't had that kind of an experience, they can relate to that feeling of disappointment. Because you want your loved ones to love you back, and when...
See, I felt for Savannah too, though, because like his loved ones did not.
He's very sympathetic, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I kind of understand why you're throwing your older brother out a window on a 40th floor.
What was up with the...
And then having your dad get eaten by greed.
The end of it, though, because he's like carving all those symbols, and then like the caterpillar shows up. Okay,
that caterpillar is another really, really deep cut, because he's another thing I didn't expect to show up. That is a creature called Mr. Mind.
Oh boy.
Which I will let you look that up.
Okay.
But no, at the end, it's all very, very small stakes. I got really worried during the fight scene because they go into that part where they're wrestling in the night and flying through the air, and I was like, oh God, we're going to go into Man of Steel territory. And I started having flashbacks.
Then they stop.
And then they just stop it. It's like maybe 5 scenes worth.
And then like Mark Strong starts doing this dialogue, and he's like, what the fuck are you saying?
I genuinely laughed out loud at that.
I did too. I was
it was like, a great scene. I can't hear you.
He's like, blood will rain from the sky. He's like, are you doing a bad guy monologue?
Yeah.
That was.
I genuinely laughed at that, because that's something that every fucking superhero movie does. And they're like 400 feet apart, and it's like, what?
Bro, I'm 400 feet away. I can't hear you.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I didn't expect the social media network and this to have a similar scene. Because it harkens back. I want to say that was David Sandberg again, who made that movie with Jesse Eisenberg and about Mark Zuckerberg, The Social Network. Yeah.
I've seen it.
Where they're sitting in the club and they're yelling at each other while the music plays, because that's how a club works. And I was like, oh yeah, so that's right. This guy understands how sound works over distance and noise, because you're hearing cop cars and trains rattle while he's doing his monologue. It's just like, that's right, you wouldn't be able to hear this.
I love the little kid that's out the window and does that, though, and like runs in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a smack at Batman v Superman, because he was having Batman and Superman just go.
Then he drops both toys and just sees Shazam.
Yeah. Which, if that's the case, by all means, shit on Batman v Superman some more, David Sandberg. I don't think anybody really get. Well, there'll be some people who blame you.
I mean, it's not like it matters. Batfleck.
There'll be some people who are like, this movie wasn't fucking dark enough. This is Marvel movie.
So
bullshit.
do you think they are gonna try to refit the Justice League, or how do you think they're gonna do it now that Batfleck is out?
I have
And that
no
Ezra
idea.
Miller keeps pushing back the Flash movie.
I have no idea, honestly.
Because now we're going to get Black Adam and Shazam 2.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about that.
And a horror movie.
Horror movie?
They're going to do it based off the other, like the dark crustacean things from Aquaman. They're going to make like a horror movie about those.
Who fucking cares?
I don't know. They saw how well Aquaman. I wouldn't be surprised if after this, I love this movie, but after its success, if we don't get a crappy spinoff with every member of the Shazam family, and they try to retell the same story.
Yeah, no.
I hope to God it doesn't.
I hope
that.
not, and
maybe maybe Shazam 2 will be like Shazam 2, the Shazam family, or something like that. But
Shazam 2, the Shazamining.
Which there'll be 5 cuts of it. And
Yeah.
we'll have to fight over which one's the best.
I don't know what they're going to do for Shazam 2. I honestly am kind of looking forward to it. I'll go into that movie a lot more happy than I did a lot of the other ones.
So I think 2 might be darker just because you are literally fighting the evil version of yourself.
Yes.
Unless they can make the characters somewhat sensible, like they kind of did in the Injustice game. They kind of.
I could see them make him a lot more sympathetic, like they did with Injustice, because there is a lot of things you can do with him, because he does, like, his primary goal is the defense of Karnak.
I don't know. They said he was corrupted by.
That's not his real name. That's not the city's real name. I know.
He was. They said Black Adam in this universe was maybe corrupted by the 7 deadly sins somehow.
Possibly. I'm also really happy they went with the original title of the 7 deadly sins. I very much understand them going with the 7 sins of man label for them, like they do in I want to say it's the guy who made Bones retelling of Shazam, which that is actually a really good book. If you haven't read that, I strongly do recommend it. If I'm not mistaken, they're called the 7 Sins of Man in that, rather than the 7 Deadly Sins, because they're meant to represent a more broad spectrum rather than like the traditional Judeo-Christian iconography that they originally went with. It works in the movie, don't get me wrong. I think it's really great, but I totally would have understood them going with the other. That being said, I don't want Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam.
He looks the part.
He may look the part, but given his past movie roles in recent, shall we say, I think it might be better if...
He's been, box office wise, he's been killing it. Like,
well, so did Michael Bay for a long time, but let's remember, money doesn't always equal good.
Okay, so
and
you just don't
Nicolas
like him.
Cage.
I know you don't like him because of I know you didn't like Jumanji, even though a lot of people did. I
thought Jumanji was fine.
I
thought he was fine in Jumanji.
I know you don't like the Fast and Furious movies.
I don't like those movies. I think they're dumb. The first half of them take themselves way too seriously.
Those two, like, what other acting repertoire?
Skyscraper?
Never saw it. See, my problem with The Rock's...
Baywatch?
My problem with The Rock's acting career is, like, you can give The Rock any role and he will read a script. That's kind of what I don't want about this. I think he can play a character well, though. It's just... I think he's been so about it. I believe he like just his will. To
He's
play this
also
character.
been about a remake of Big Trouble in Little China, and I would say absolutely no to that. That movie doesn't need to be remade at all. Ever. You hear me, Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Stop trying to remake really good movies from the 80s. Make new movies.
See, when I heard he was cast as Black Adam, I thought John Cena should have been Shazam. I love Zachary Levi, and I would not. I just thought John Cena could have, like, his best roles are comedies, and I think that would be like a modern day child's idea of a superhero.
It's close, but no, I think Zachary Levi worked well.
Yep.
Honestly, I would go with somebody who's less of a known quantity. I would go. I might look somewhere towards, like, maybe Bollywood, because Black Adam is supposed to be this larger than life figure, and if you want somebody like The Rock to do that, I would say a industry that is built entirely towards being as bombastic and over the top as possible is where you would want to look.
I remember some of those movies. They were very weird.
Bollywood movies are fucking weird, but again, you kind of want some weirdness with this.
When I worked at the theater, like, I'd go in and it'd be like a super serious movie, and then 10 minutes later they're in a song and dance number.
Oh yeah, no.
And that's every Bollywood movie.
I know. I've seen some. They're kind of a guilty pleasure for me because of exactly that. Because of the tonal whiplash you'll receive from watching one of them.
It's okay. Kamen Rider's a guilty pleasure for me. So.
There you go.
I love my Japanese superheroes. I'm all about that toku.
Well, those are our thoughts on Captain Marvel. I know people are gonna call us chauvinistic idiots for saying that the one with the white man is better than the one with that's female led, but okay. I understood.
Wonder Woman is still
Wonder Woman is easily the second favorite of the new movies that they've made.
And my list is as follows.
Okay.
Shazam.
Okay.
Wonder Woman.
Yep.
Aquaman.
Mm.
Then I would place Man of Steel. Then Justice League. Suicide Squad. Batman v Superman.
Really?
What?
Like, I didn't like Batman v Superman. At least it had semi-cohesive editing. Which is more than I can say for Suicide Squad. You know what? We're going to get off topic on that.
Those are like the bottom two, though.
What did you guys think? Did you like it? Have you seen it? Do you plan on seeing it? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Later.